with the rest of this MRA. So there's another technique, we call it the steady state free precision based MRA. Steady state is SSFP. You are well aware of it. We have studied in previous module as well. But anyhow, I'll give you glimpses of this one again, like how the SSFP image is formed. So in this you can see this particular beautiful image of this is a sign image. Sign image means this is a live image of the angiography. So this is the cardiac angiography that you can see beautifully how the blood flow is happening within the aorta. So in this very lecture, the learning outcomes will be the residual magnetization, which is very important for this to building this particular concept regarding this SSFP. And then we'll talk about what is this particular phenomena, this particular technique, then how the image can be produced, and how the MRA images are being acquired, and then what are the limitations to it. So residual magnetization, as we are well aware of this particular thing, that when you take the patient and put it in the external magnetization in the magnetic in MRI, what happens? All of the protons that are spinning randomly, they actually get aligned with the external magnetic field. So it forms longitudinal magnetization, as you know it. So the longitudinal magnetization is being achieved when we give an RF pulse of theta degree. So what happens? This longitudinal magnetization is being shifted toward this transverse magnetization to another plane, this plane. So this shift happens. If you give some time to this, if you shut off this particular RF pulse, what happens? This transverse magnetization recovers toward the longitudinal magnetization, but it doesn't recover to its full capacity, like as the earlier longitudinal magnetization was. You know, like 100% was here, longitudinal magnetization. When you transfer it toward the transverse magnetization, it was 100% shifted over there. But while it returned to its original place of the longitudinal magnetization, it will not be achieved 100%. It has been said that it has been achieved only 63%. The rest of the 37% is been residing here. That's how we call it the residual magnetization. Okay. Over here, you can see, I'm just giving you a glimpse of it. That's the residual that is left over there. So this particular thing, when we are making use of this residual magnetization, it gives us a basis for the steady state free precision technique. So SSFP based MRA is actually, what do you mean by SSFP? It's steady state free precision. It's a type of the gradient echo MRI pulse sequence, which is a steady. Steady means it is remaining there. It is there. It is a residual one. So the residual transverse magnetization, which is like that particular MY means it's present. We also called it a place where it is an equilibrium between the X and that of the Y. X represents the longitudinal magnetization plane, and the Y represents the transverse magnetization plane. So between the two successive cycle, that this particular magnetization is being residing. So this sequence is noted for its superiority and the dynamic. Yeah, we call it the sign. Sign means the live or dynamic assessment of the cardiac function. So if you know, when we are giving an RF pulse, then there is FID that happens. What is an FID? It's the free induction decay. What do you mean by free induction decay? Automatically there will be the decay that happens, and then that decay, it can also give us a signal. So that's why we are representing here with the echo, which is happening very after the RF pulse. While if you give another RF pulse, what will happen? This FID will happen, but along with it, there is a residual area. This particular residual area is giving us this particular phenomena. If we fuse these two together, this FID and echo, if we fuse them together, you bring them together, like this distance has been removed from both of them, it can give you this particular steady state free precision. And then why it's very important, because it can give us a a superior assessment of the cardiac or either other angiographic arterial system or angiographic system. You can study with this. So if you can see, if you can achieve this particular signal out of here, so the signal can be from the FID as well as from this echo, but it's not fused together. They are at a distance from one another. Now the concept comes to this one, that transverse magnetization, excuse me. Okay, transverse magnetization die out in the middle between the RF pulses. If the pulses are applied sufficiently rapid, like for example, in this previous one, we are applying not that much rapidly. We are giving it at a very, there is a gap between them. We are giving it a time. So they are not very close to each other. But while if you give sufficiently rapidly, then the TR is less than that of the T2. Why? If the T2, if you are giving it equivalent to the T2 or far in that, then it will be having another phenomena. And the phenomena is that if you are achieving the T2 weighted image, so it will be for the water only, but it will take some time. But we need it in a sine one, and the sine one is actually something that needs a less time. Angiography, हमने angiography करनी है ना, so इस वजह से जो इसका TR है should be very less than that of the T2. Up the tails of the FID, the tail means this one, the ending point of the FID and that of the echo. If you bring them very close to one another, okay, if you bring them close to one another, so they will merge, and there will be a continuous signal of varying amplitude that will be produced. So this is known as a steady state free precision. Over here, this is the typical example of the steady SSFP. There was an FID and then there is an echo. You have reduced this RF pulses with a very short TR. That's how we mean the TR. It should be very less than T2, so that both of the tails are being fused together. So the signal will be a single signal that you can achieve. And that this is something that is forming basis for the SSFP based MRA. Waves and other fluids as well as the fates may appear bright on this sequence as well, but the subtraction is required, because by subtraction we mean we will be having one image that will be a mask image. Mask image is something that gives you that if you take for example, if you are doing a T2 weighted image of for a particular area, for a particular arterial system, then on the T2 the thing will appear as a bright when there will be fluid. But what if that particular area you are giving the T2 आपको पता है कि T2 में टाइम ज्यादा लगता है, टाइम भी ज्यादा लगता है, और दूसरा ये है कि वहां पे फ्लो कंटिन्यूसली जा रही है. सो देयर विल बी अ डिफरेंस बिटवीन दैट ऑफ द स्टैटिक एंड जो उस एरिया का है. तो इस वजह से जो हमारे पास वेन्स है, फ्लूइड है और बाकी जो फेट्स एरियाज है, वो भी ब्राइट अपीयर हो सकते हैं. सब्सट्रैक्शन इज रिक्वायर्ड. सब्सट्रैक्शन हम हमेशा तब करते हैं जब हम एक मास्क इमेज लेते हैं जिसमें उस एरिया का कंट्रास्ट डिफरेंट होता है फ्रॉम दैट ऑफ द वन दैट यू आर अचीविंग. दोनों को जब सब्सट्रैक्ट कर लेते हैं तो आपके पास जो रिजल्टेंट इमेज होता है, यू कॉल्ड इट the subtraction image, and that's how the subtraction is required in this particular imaging technique as well. In the previous lecture we studied the subtraction in very detail, like how the subtraction is happening in the arterial and that of the venous system. तो उसमें जो difference होता है, the difference is something that gives us an image. Now in this very technique we also apply another phenomena. We call it the arterial spin labeling. What is the arterial spin labeling? It's called ASL. Or if you are not applying in the arterial spin labeling, then we apply the inversion recovery pulses as well. Why they are important? I'll let you know in a very short. अभी आपको मैं बता देता हूँ. इसमें जो हमारे पास techniques है, we call it the time slip or native true phase, or either we call it the IFIR as well. These names are actually based on the different vendors कि जो कंपनीज है उन्होंने अपने अपने नाम दिए हुए हैं इनको. They are used for the renal abdominal arteries as well. Similarly, you can use them for the other arterial system as well. So what is this arterial spin leveling? Arterial spin leveling is something that you are taking the label of this particular area. Why we label a particular area? For example, carotid arteries are passing from this particular from this particular area of interest, AOI. अब यहाँ से जब आर्टरी गुजर के इस तरफ ब्लड फ्लो आ रही है, आर्टरीज गुजर रही हैं, यहाँ ब्लड फ्लो आ रही है. अब जब ब्लड फ्लो यहाँ से निकल के इस तरफ आ रही है, सो व्हाट वी आर डूइंग, यहाँ हम जब इसको टारगेट कर लेते हैं, वी गिव अ पर्टिकुलर एंगल टू इट. व्हेन इट मूव्स टुवर्ड दिस एरिया, जो हमारे पास जो हमने एंजियोग्राफी करनी है जिस एरिया का, लाइक दिस वन, तो द इंफॉर्मेशन इट ब्रिंग्स हेयर, वो हमारे पास ऑलरेडी हमने उसको सिचुरेट किया होता है. सो जब सिचुरेट करके टोटल वापस हमें वो सिग्नल तो नहीं देगी, बिकॉज इट चेंजेस इट्स ओरिएंटेशन. एज यू नो कि कल जो लेक्चर में मैंने आपको बताया था कि इफ द फ्लो इज हैपनिंग बिटवीन that of the static area or flow is happening between the venous or vessels, जो vessels है और हमारे पास जो static area है, जब हम saturation देते हैं, the saturation will be happening only in the static area because it's not moving. जो एरिया मूव कर रहे हैं वहां पे बकायदा there will be change in the direction of the spins, क्योंकि वो साथ साथ लूज कर रही है आरएफ जो एनर्जी है, जो आरएफ पल्स आपने दिया है सैचुरेशन. लेकिन फिर भी इट विल हैविंग, अगर इस एरिया को हमने सैचुरेट किया है, सो दिस इज नॉट एन एरिया ऑफ आवर इंटरेस्ट. आवर एरिया ऑफ इंटरेस्ट इज दिस वन. सो यहाँ जो आपके पास यहाँ से इंफॉर्मेशन लेके आ रही है, दीज आर द वन जो कि हमारे पास जो आपके पास क्या है, ब्लड है जो यहाँ से आ रही है. सो वी आर मेकिंग ओनली सैचुरेशन टू दोज एरियाज, दोज स्पेन्स. तो वहां की जो इंफॉर्मेशन आ रही है कंपेयर टू द स्टैटिक एरिया हुआ रहे, देयर विल बी अ चेंज इन दैट, एंड दैट्स हाउ पोस्ट लेबलिंग करते हैं, एंड देन द एक्विजिशन इज बीन डन. इसको हम काफी डिटेल में आगे कार्डिक एंजियोग्राफी में इसको पढ़ेंगे कि ये arterial spin labeling क्या है. But anyhow, these are the techniques that has been applied, that we pre-saturate those particular protons or the spins that we want to take image out of it. Okay, and this and particularly in MRA, we use the balance SSFP. This particular previous sequence we call it the balance SSFP because you have brought together जो FID का है और echo based है, इनकी जो tails है, you brought them very very close to each other, as well as you are applying a rapid TRs जो कि आपके पास train में आ रही है. Train, we mean echo train is something that you are actually bringing them together in a very close space. तो उसको हम कहते हैं balance SSFP. That's how it's called the GRE steady state, because we are not applying here any of the span echo, but we are considering the gradients, and gradients apply karke we achieve this particular condition. The very important benefit of this particular SSFP is it is having a high SNR. High SNR is required because what we are interested is हमारा जो इंटरेस्ट है मेन वो किस चीज में है, वो हमारे उस एंजियोग्राफी में है, उस पर्टिकुलर आर्टरीज में है. वहाँ पे सप्लाई कैसे जो है जा रही है, वहाँ पे कोई obstruction तो नहीं है, is there any stenosis, obstruction, thrombosis, clots or anything. So we want to see the full diameter in the blood flow within that particular vessel. So that's why it is having a high SNR that we can see this particular image very brightly. Differentiation, contrast is very good. Differentiation is very important in this particular scenario. Also, the motion, there is a motion insensitivity. Why the motion insensitivity is there? It's because that we are using the balance gradients all three directions. So we are having the three direction X, Y, and Z. So motion insensitivity is there because that's why this is used as a sign imaging, SSFP. Sign imaging is the angiography, and for the angiography, the motion is important because motion is something that gives us that particular area, how the blood flow is happening. So that's why it doesn't carry any of the insensitivity with the gradient, but it will have one particular limitations, that is like the gradient should be very, very, the gradient should be, it will be very, very sensitive toward the gradients, because if you are fluctuating and there is a fluctuation in any of the gradients, then there will be no image, or either the image will appear as a poor one. So that's why these things are very important and crucial to be considered. They are also called true FISP, as we studied the SSFP in very detail in the previous semester. It's also called as a true FISP by the Siemens, Paista by the General Electric, and balanced TFE by the Philips. So these are according with the different vendors, giving the blood very high signal without dependence on the inflow. So that's how it appears very, very brightly. Limitations are here. Relatively complex imaging, because it contains this balanced SSFP with the free induction decay, that of the echo using the small TRs. So it's a complex sort of imaging, but it carries another limitation to it so that's why the relative complex imaging, we mean by this that we can't take such imaging in low Tesla machines, but we are required a high Tesla machine. High Tesla machine में हमारे पास जो है 1.5 से ऊपर एंजियोग्राफीज हमारे पास उसमें ज्यादा होती है. एंजियोग्राफीज जो है you can't perform in such detail, खास तौर पे this particular phenomena in low Tesla is 0.6 and less than that. Susceptibility to field inhomogeneity. Field inhomogeneity is very, very crucial. Field homogeneity is crucial. Inhomogeneity will cause the field disturbance, which actually cause you can't take a good imaging out of it. So that's why it's very susceptible toward that. This very particular imaging is a sagittal image of the cardiac imaging, cardiac angiography. So you can see the left ventricle in a very detail. The left ventricle is here, and then there is the arch of the ascending aorta, and then arch of the aorta, and the descending aorta is there. Then the thoracic aorta and the abdominal aorta. So you can see a good differentiation between these ones. Then you can see the other branches that goes upward, which are the 3-1, and the brachiocephalic, the carotid, common carotid, and the third branch is there. Then there is another image which is the axial image of the heart, where you can see that the coronary arteries are emerging from the aorta, from the base of the aorta. So these are very good for the assessment of the as an angiographic tool, because angiography, we are doing the cardiac angiography based on the invasive technique majority, because invasive technique is something that is used in the cardiac suit. Cardiac suit is जो हमारे पास cardiac angiographies होती है, तो उसमें ये invasive technique है, need a preparation for this particular कार्डिक एंजियोग्राफी, जिसमें कार्डिक एंजियोग्राफी के अलावा हम कार्डिक स्टेंटिंग वगैरह भी करते हैं. But in this very technique, you don't need that sort of a preparation as well as the जो हमारे पास post care है. That's why we are looking for the alternative technique which are efficient, having less pain involved in it, like less invasiveness, having the no radiation technique, because in a cardiac intervention procedure, it is having a lot of जो हमारे पास radiation is very high amount of radiation is associated with that one. So that's why we are preferring the technique that should be very efficient, having all of the other benefits that we are always considering in the radiology. We call it the justification process. Like we always assess the things based on the risk versus benefit. So have a look at this steady state free precision based sign imaging. Have a look at the this particular imaging that you can see the systole and diastole that is happening. Diastole is the enlargement of this particular cardiac chamber, and this push of the blood, or either the contraction of the blood, the contraction of this particular anatomical structure that you can see, you can visualize all of the blood that is happening. Look, the blood flow, it is very, very smoothly, it is happening toward the upside of the upper side of the body, which is like head and neck, and the lower side of the body is like that of the abdominal aorta. So you can easily visualize between them. So you can see that there is the this particular systole that you can see over here, abdominal aorta mein, the pumping is happening. So that's why this only the sagittal imaging that you can see in this particular image. अच्छा, SSFP based MRA. You're not using it for the cardiac imaging, but we can also use it for the other imaging technique जो areas है. This one is the renal angiography. So the renal angiography, you can see that this first image is the early image, and then the later one is the subtracted image. So subtracted image is if you have subtracted all of the other areas, as well as you can see that this diameter of the vein is larger compared to this one, because it has subtracted all of the other, like those particular vessel walls, as well as the other fats and things that which are actually aiding toward our imaging. जो हमारे पास particular area है उसमें aid कर रहा है अपनी उस particular so this very particular technique ये भी हमारे पास इस्तेमाल होता है as an angiography. Thank you.